Hi everybody, welcome to Bible Journaling with Leanne. Today's more of a youth-friendly session for my free to fly group, but anybody can join in. Today I'll just run through some supplies. I've got my paintbrushes, different sizes and widths. Got my Kurosaki Gonzai Tambi watercolours, zips, adhesive strips. I've got a tip-in I've made and some lovely Bible stickers from HK Creations. Got my micron pens, a pencil and a rubber, my Heat It craft tool, as well as my pots of water, my scissors and also an old piece of towel that I used to just mop up my paintbrushes with. So today we're in Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 12, which says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life." And I've been thinking a lot about hope over the last few weeks as I was preparing for today and as I was being led in my own quiet times, and I came across a sermon that I'll link below. It's from Cross Point Church in Nashville, and it was all about hope. The sermon's title was simply "Got Hope," and in it Pastor Kevin talks about a guy in their church who has had COVID and had it really, really bad and been in hospital. And this man shared how hope is what pulls him forward. During that time of suffering and hardship, hope is what pulls him forward. And so I wanted to reflect that in this page that I'm creating. And I'm creating a picture here of a rope. I'm just sketching it out. I blocked out the rough shape of how the rope would look, and then I'm just going back in with my pencil and adding that kind of spirally effect of the strands of the rope going round and round. It doesn't need to be particularly neat. I'm just sketching it out. I'll rub out anything that you can see through the paintwork later, but it's just to give me a guide as I'm working, as I'm painting, to make sure that I get it all in the right place and everything's set up correctly. So I neaten it up, get it all ready, and then it's the fun bit, it's choosing the colour scheme. Now for this page I'm choosing my favourite colour scheme at the moment. I've just decorated my bedroom and this is the colour scheme that we've done in there. So there's some oranges and some teals and dark blues, and all I ever do when I start working with my watercolours, and I normally do this off camera but I made sure I should share that with you today, is that I just put some water on all the colours that I plan to be using so they start to wake up, and then when I'm ready to go in and use them, they're nice and mushy and ready to use and easy to work with. Watercolour otherwise needs a lot of work to sometimes get it to the consistency that you want, so that is my first stage always when I'm working with watercolours. And then I'm just going in with a light wash of that really pale turquoise colour all over the rope to begin with, and now I'm going back and trying to start off creating some dimension to get the strands of this rope looking 3D and having more of a realistic effect. Sorry about my phone pinging there, apologies. So to try and get this effect looking right, it took quite a long time. This page, this video is edited down from well over an hour, so it was a time-consuming process, because at this point I think it looks really ugly, and it took some work to try and even out the colours, get the shading to look right, to get the boldness and the punch that I wanted from the colours and not have it look washed out. So it just took layer over layer over layer of going through with the different shades of blue and turquoise to get that depth of tone that I was after, and then also sometimes just going back in with water. Here I'm just using just water on my brush and just trying to blend those colours together so it doesn't look like a harsh line around each strand, but it looks like that gentleness of a shadow. And so the layers are building up, and it goes through that process of looking ugly and clunky and not very effective, and then eventually it really starts to pop off the page, and I was really pleased with the end result from painting this today. Some areas I painted wet on wet so that the colours merge and run into each other a bit more. Here I am just trying to deepen up those areas that will be in the deepest shadow, and then in other areas I work wet on dry even, and that just gives a crispness of finish. Obviously you can't blend it into each other if you're working wet on dry, but you can see here that by just slowly and carefully painting these details rather than doing it in a rush, I can gradually soften the effect, add water, take paint off. That's why I have that towel there, so that I can take water off my brush, and then when my brush is dry it kind of can act a bit like a sponge to take some of the watercolour paint off the page and get that smoothness of transition that I was looking for. You can see there I've gone in really deep and dark and it looks really heavy, but actually going back in, gradually lifting some of the colour brings about a much smoother transition across each of those segments, and I really like how this all ends up. I feel like it looks like a rope, which is always a good thing when what you're trying to paint looks real, but it also looks strong, doesn't it? If God's on the other end of this rope, if Jesus is my tree of life, if he is the one where my hope is fulfilled, it's got to be a rope that can stand up to that, doesn't it? In his talk, Pastor Kevin talks about some different types of hope that John Eldridge talks about in one of his books, and he talks about ultimate hope. Ultimate hope can only be placed in Jesus. There is nothing else in this world that can take that place in your life. And so on the other end of this rope is Jesus. Jesus pulling me through, Jesus pulling us through. And so it's got to look strong, it's got to stand up to that tension that comes. Because when something pulls, there's a strength in that, isn't it? That if hope is what pulls me through, if hope's pulling me through this time of uncertainty, this time of sadness, this time of injustice, all these things going on in our lives, hope's pulling us through, and I'm painting that hope as a rope. This rope's got to be strong, and there's only one person who can stand up to that kind of pressure. This verse says, hope defers makes the heart sick. And if our hope's in the wrong places, that sickness is going to come all the more. The different types of hope that Pastor Kevin talks about are casual hope, precious hope, and ultimate hope. Now, I talked about ultimate hope a bit. Casual hope, he talks about a holiday that you've missed, or time that you've missed with family, or those simple everyday hopes. I hope I'm going to have fish and chips for tea tonight. Things that we hope for in everyday life. And if those hopes are deferred, it makes us sad. And at the moment, it's okay to be sad. There are lots of things and lots of ways where those hopes are being deferred. Now, fish and chip shops are open again. That's a possibility. But there's been times where those simple things have made my heart sad. And then he talks about precious hope. Now, precious hope, they're those bigger things in life. That might be that your prom's been cancelled and that you can't finish college or school the way you hoped you would, or that you're hoping that one day you're gonna be dating someone who you're gonna marry. These are the bigger hopes in life, the things that you really want to hold on to. And when those hopes are deferred, you're not just sad, you're heartbroken. They're things that kind of you don't forget. You might forget about a holiday that you missed, But you're not going to forget about your heart being broken. You're not going to forget that that relationship didn't go the way you hoped it would. And then he talks about our ultimate hope that we've talked about is in Jesus and can only be in Jesus. It's our place of safety, our place of refuge. It's the place where we soar even in hard times. And so I just wanted to create that sense of joy that Jesus is my tree of life, that there is something to celebrate in this tension too, that I'm not going through it on my own, I'm walking it with him. And so I wanted to brighten up this page a bit and include these oranges and dark blue to create the contrast, paint splatters because they always make my heart happy. And so I just go through and I'm just putting on these different paint marks with different shaped brushes, different size brushes. I love that big wide boxy brush for things like this. It gives such great impact straight away. And then I go in just with that really dark navy blue, just for some really small little art lines. Again, creating more interest and celebration in the page, because I can acknowledge that there is things in this world right now that are causing me great sadness and that my heart is sick. But at the same time, I know that I have a hope bigger than all of that, and that is in Jesus, and that Jesus is the tree of life. And so there's something to celebrate in all this too, because going through this with him is an absolute source of complete joy. So I just go through like I always do, sorry about my head there, and outline it a few times with my finest pen. And then I added those fantastic stickers from HK Creations that just say, this verse speaks to me because, and remember. Now, here's the fun bit. I'm going to add my tip in. So I've got a strip of really fine, double-sided, really strong tape. And I'm just adhering that to this piece of watercolour card that I've turned into a tip in. That just has some notes on the back from Kevin's sermon that I want to remember. So I've adhered that. You can see just a really thin line of glue, and then I'm opening my Bible as wide as could be to really put that right down in the spine of my Bible. It's going to be like an extra page, not a tip in that folds in and out, but like an extra page within my Bible. And so there we go, that's my page for today. Have some fun creating one for yourself, and I can't wait to see what you create. God bless and lots of love. Bye for now.